Hello, Senior Stoner fan. Just the real Senior Stoner back at you for your Cure Dab of the Day. Hello, everybody. Today is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day to all the children out there that are going to enjoy their time with their dads. Today is Sunday. Let's get started. But as always, if you enjoy today's video, don't forget to subscribe and join the Senior Stoner family. Send a like my way, and as you know, I respond to all comments. Again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Let's get started with an appropriate topic for today. How do we become, or how are we going to be good parents to our children? This is so critically important because good parenting fosters honesty in people, makes them self-reliant, gives them self-control. They learn kindness from us. They learn to be cooperative and even cheerful. It also promotes their intellectual curiosity, the children's motivation and desire to achieve. And good parenting protects children from developing anxiety, depression, eating disorders, anxiety that is alcohol and drug abuse related. It does so much. It's almost incomprehensible how important it is to be a good parent. And today we're going to talk about being a great dad. Let's get started. Well, as we know, there are principles, age-old principles of parenting, but they've changed. So let's discuss how we can become, or how we can be better parents and dads. You got to do what matters. It's one of the most important things. What you do makes a huge difference because your kids are always watching you. Don't just react to the spur of the moment. Ask yourself instead, what do I want to accomplish? And is this likely to produce that result? And remember, you cannot be too loving. I'm a hugger. I'm a kisser. I was a hand holder, a carrier. I wanted to bathe in my children. I wanted them around me all the time because I love them so much. So you just cannot be too loving. It's not possible to spoil a child with love. What we often think of as the product of spoiling a child is never the result of showing a child too much love. Unfortunately, it's the consequences of giving the children things in place of love. Things like leniency, things like lowered expectations, or material possessions. We have to remember that you've got to be involved with your children's lives. Mrs. Stoner and I sat on hot evening nights in the summertime when my daughter was in softball. No matter when, we were there. My son, through sports, never missed a lacrosse game. So, being involved means being a parent, and being a parent means being involved. It takes time, and it takes hard work. And it often means you got to rearrange and rethink your priorities. Remember, I was a sales executive responsible for half the United States, and I was on a plane 4 days a week. So how did I have that luxury? You got to find a way, okay? Because what you got to do is you got to really want to do for what your child needs to do. And you've got to be there mentally as well as physically. If your body's there and you're not supportive, don't bother being there. So being involved, there are some caveats. Doesn't mean doing a kid's homework for them, or reading it over, or correcting it. Homework is a tool that teachers use to know whether the child's learning or not. If you do the kid's homework, you're not letting the teacher know what the child is learning. And you've got to adapt your parenting, dads out there, to fit your kid. Keep pace with your child's development. Your child is going to grow up, and you got to consider how age affects that. The same drive for independence that makes a 3-year-old say no all the time is what's motivating him to be toilet trained. The same intellectual growth spurt that is making your 13-year-old curious and inquisitive in the classroom It's also making them argumentative at the dinner table. But children are easily distracted, easily become irritable. So, you know what? Should parents push them more, or should they be more understanding? Well, you got to be flexible. Flexibility is a key thing. You've got to look very carefully at multiple angles, because pushing a child to do better isn't the only solution. The problem needs to be diagnosed in detail, and maybe even by a professional to help you through. You've got to establish and set rules at home and outside of the home. And if you don't manage it with children's behavior when they're young, you're going to have a hell of a hard time as they start to get older. You'll ask questions like, where is my child? Oh, who's with my child? What are they doing? So if you have rules, you might not have to ask those questions. But you got to remember, you can't micromanage kids anymore. Once a kid is in middle school, you need to let the child start to spread and do their own homework, make their choices, and try not to intervene as much as you want to. And that's just my opinion on it, okay? Because you want to foster a child's independence. That's what makes a great parent. Great parent knows how to hug and how to go like this. So you've got to set limits. You've got to encourage the independence and self-direction, because to be successful, a person's going to have both. But it's normal to push children for autonomy. Many parents mistakenly equate a children's independence with rebellion or disobedience. It's not. Children push for independence because it's part of human nature to want to feel in control, rather than feel controlled by someone else, even if it's with a loving parent. Well, we need to be consistent. There are two parents out there. So if your rules vary from day to day, or they vary from mom or dad, it's unpredictable. You might only use them intermittently. And you know what? That makes your child's misbehavior your fault, not theirs. Your most important disciplinary tool with a child is consistency. Identify your non-negotiables. The more your authority is based on wisdom and not power, the less your child will challenge it. You've got to remember that most parents have problem being consistent. But when they're not consistent, children get confused. So we've got to force ourselves for consistency for the child's welfare. And unfortunately, I was an abused child and adolescent and young teen. But you've got to avoid harsh discipline. Parents should never strike, hit a child. Children who are spanked, hit, or slapped are more prone to fight with other kids and have deep psychological problems. They're more likely to be bullies. They're more likely to use aggression and solve things violently with others. And there's a lot of evidence that violence against your child and disciplinarying leads to relationship problems for that child with other kids. There are many ways to discipline a child. You got to think about it, including the old-fashioned timeout, which work a lot better and do not involve aggression. You must not be aggressively harsh with a young child. Think about the size difference. Think about a young 5-year-old this big, and you're 6 feet tall, shouting at that child. Think what happens inside that mind. Think what happened to me and my sister, okay? So the way to, I think, work this pretty simply, without violence, obviously, is to explain your rules. Explain your decisions. Great parents have expectations they want their children to live up to. Generally, parents over-explain to young children and under-explain to the adolescents. But what's obvious, but may not be evident to a 12-year-old, okay, is he doesn't have priorities or the judgment or the experience that you do. What do you think of that? So you've got to have certain expectations. A 6-year-old that's very active and very smart and blurts out answers in class and doesn't give children other, that was me, okay? The teacher needs to address the child's behavior problem. need to talk to the child about it. Parents want to meet with a child's teacher in situations like that because the child needs to give other children a chance. Okay? You've got to treat a child, any child, with respect. RESPECT. Treat your child with respect because the best way to get respectful treatment out of your child is to treat them respectfully. Gee, that sounds really scientific, doesn't it? Well, do you know how many parents out there don't respect or treat their children with respect? You got to give your child the same courtesies you'd give anyone else. My God, you're going to talk to a checkout counter person better than some parents talk to their own children. Speak to that child politely. Respect their opinion. Pay attention to what they say. Treat them kindly. Try to please them when you can, because children treat others the way parents treat them, for God's sake. Your relationship with your child is the foundation for that child's relationships with the world. Well, I spent a lot of time thinking about that and how I was going to frame this topic. It needs to be noted that I'm an incredibly wonderful parent, in spite of what happened to me as a child. So the end game on being a great parent is that no matter what happened to you, you can change it. You can turn yourself around after being abused and beaten and hurt and psychologically damaged, and you can be the best parent in the world. As always, if you enjoyed this discussion on being a great parent, hit me up with a subscription, please. Join the family. Send a like my way, and I love comments. And I want to make sure all the dads out there hear again from Senior Stoner. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. It ain't easy. The last year in particular, year and a half, has been incredibly difficult, I'm sure, for parents, dads, and moms out there. So I want to toast you all right now with my cure. Here's the dab of the day. To you, to all the parents out there, happy Father's Day to the dads. Let's be the best dad and best mom we know how to be. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Got to heat it up the right temperature. Here we go. I put too much in. My fault, but we're going to get a big hit on this. Hold on. I got to turn the wattage up. And you're going to see this thing go. This thing's a crazy little device. Extremely popular. Here we go. And smooth, boy. Now we got it. The Cure Mini Bubbler Dab Rig. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Cheers.